Hello, my name is Lauren Fitzgerald, and this week I interviewed the parent of the student that I observed. In this case, the parent is the paternal grandmother of the child. When we first sat down, we talked about the behaviors, especially the problem behaviors that have been occurring in class. The grandmother talked about how he tears up things, how he's being disruptive in class, how he says no to the teacher, and she was really concerned about him not being nice to the other students in class. We talked about interventions that are being done at school as well as at home. We talked about how the grandmother has had several parent-teacher conferences with the teacher. She also has daily communication with the teacher, whether it be through a phone call, email, or a class dojo message. At one point, the student had a behavior chart that had positives and negatives on it. So if the student exhibited a positive behavior, the plus sign would be circled, and if the child exhibited a negative behavior, the minus sign would be circled. At the end of the day, if the child had more positives than negatives, then he would receive time spent with the counselor, so he would have lunch with the counselor. Aside from that, he would also meet with the counselor regularly, about once a cycle, a 6-day cycle, just to talk and work through some things. Outside of school at home, the student also participates at-home therapy, and he receives positive reinforcement from grandmother based on the daily report given by the teacher. That includes going to the movies or a fun activity that he likes, like going to the trampoline park. If the student had a bad report that day, the grandmother would take away his Xbox game, send him to his room, and then wait until he was ready to talk about his behaviors. When I talked about parent expectations, the grandmother really was just hopeful that her grandson would be able to make some friends, be more respectful in class, show kindness towards others, and be successful in school. When thinking about all that I learned this week and the different interviews I had with both the parent and the teacher, I realized that positive reinforcement is so important, especially after conducting the FBA. We realized that this student is really attention seeking, and that's the function of his behavior. So positive reinforcement would really address that function. In our textbook, I read that it said, often students with challenging behavior come to view their schools and educators as adversive because they have been paired with the punishing effects of various variables that exist in the school environment. It is important to combat this view by pairing ourselves with variables that have reinforcing effects, giving students lots of positive attention and engage in reinforcing activities with students will help with this. And I could not agree more. I think positive reinforcement will really help any student's behaviors. I think some of the keys to success here with behavior management are definitely parent-teacher communication. I think fostering that relationship is so important, and it also provides consistency between school and home. Following up with how the student did that day with a report home will enable the parent to then follow up and also provide additional positive reinforcements. I think consistency in the classroom is also important. If a child does have a behavior management program, to stay consistent with it and to reevaluate it as time goes on to see how effective it is. In this case with this student, I really think that the positive reinforcement and the encouragement from both at school and at home will help him to be successful. Here are my references, and thank you so much for listening.